Xander, question for you. Just a recording in progress. Xander, looking at the major parts of the game where you're talking about driving, approach, putting, and around the green, if you were forced to trade one of those for somebody else's game who plays currently, which would you trade, and who would you choose to inherit their skill?
It's a weird question considering we're getting ready for
Yep.
considering we're getting ready for a major where we're just trying to be the best at all those things. If I'm nitpicking myself, I would probably give up my short game for someone else's. There's a big group of guys who are very what I would call elite chippers. So I don't know. There's probably five or six guys I can think of that do that really well, and that would probably take a little bit of stress off my putter at times. But in all honesty, I probably wouldn't. I like the challenge of trying to get better at that too. So I'm okay with what I got.
Thank you.
Again, please click on raise your hand if you have a question. I'll jump in here then, Xander. What are your just impress? This is a place you're very familiar with. What are your impressions of the golf course in the time you have been able to see it so far this week?
Yeah, it's fortunately I've been here a few times, so delays and rain and things of this nature, they can kind of fool you a bit on this property just because they haven't been able to get the mowers out on the fairways, and the greens are exceptionally firm for getting a few inches of rain the last 3 or 4 days. So I heard the sub air going on the greens, and I imagine this is our last sort of batch of rain coming through, at least for the next 24 hours, and even tomorrow, tomorrow afternoon, and then Thursday morning, I see these greens being, I mean, who knows, a foot and a half faster, and then if we can get some sun and some wind out, they're going to dry up really quick and kind of get to that quail hollow that we're all used to seeing.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Garrett. Go ahead, Garrett.
Hey, Xander, thanks for doing this, man. Just wanted to say, your 72nd hole, one thing that Austin, your caddy, mentioned to me was that your shoulders never slumped when you got up to that shot there on, the ball above your feet. Remember on the 72nd hole last year of Valhalla? Just you stayed in the moment. Like, what do you attribute that to, and what was your big takeaway from that finishing hole?
I mean, I think when you're in a position to win, you sort of forget. You don't really hang your hat on anything that can kind of bring you down. I think when like I like coming back from injury earlier this year, I'm nitpicking myself around every corner versus when I'm in sort of mid-season form. I'm hitting the similar quality shots or bad shots or good shots, across the board. And the difference really is when you're in the moment. I think you don't nitpick. You're just on a mission. You're on a mission to do one thing, and that's to win. And it's sort of a whatever it takes mentality. And you're not sitting there nitpicking yourself on sort of the small things, or if you miss hit it, or you miss your line by a little bit, things of that nature. So it's been a process for me to get back to that point where I'm okay with hitting bad shots, or hitting it out of place, and just making the best of it, and sort of moving along from there, and allowing myself to get a good 9 hole stretch in, and go low. So that's been a process coming back and thinking back to the 72nd hole there. I was just in a good state of mind. I was all I was trying to do was win that tournament, and it didn't matter if I had to hit a shot lefty on the last hole. I wasn't going to be rattled.
Right. And just one last one from me. Just having like the caddies there on that last green waiting for you. You had Joe Griner, Dave. I mean, a lot of people celebrating and happy for you. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, a few buddies, fly down from New York. My friend and his girlfriend, and Chris, my new swing coach, sort of freshly new swing coach at the time then, and my uncle was there. My wife was there, my brother. So it was cool. It was cool to see everyone sort of huddled up. It was cool to see everyone. Sort of. It was nice to be able to share that sort of emotion with everyone. That's close to me.
Great stuff. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Garrett. We'll go back to Shane Ryan. Shane?
Um, Xander, the story we keep hearing about Quail, I think this narrative that's come through is that fans and architecture critics don't necessarily love it because it's pretty simple, but that players like it because it's pretty simple. Do you kind of agree with that? And then, statistically, what we're seeing is that it puts this huge premium on driving, where it kind of seems like driving is maybe not the only important thing, but so important that it takes over everything. Do you agree with these kind of takes, and basically, how do you feel about Quail?
I think when you look at just the statistics that way, I think you would just point. There's probably an emphasis or a certain weight that driving carries if you're able to hit it in the fairway and hit a certain distance. But shoot, I mean, you can hit in the fairway all day and miss a lot of greens, and you're going to have a really tough go around. So, you know, I think it's a really tough golf course. I think everyone knows what they need to do. There's no sort of trick to play this golf course. A lot of people will hit it to the same spot. A lot of people will miss it to the same spot as well. And it's about it's not bad because it's like who can get up and down better when they're out of position, and then who can capitalize when they're in a good position. So it seems to be pretty fair. And yes, maybe it does err, or, if you do hit it far, it does help. But for the most part, I think it's a pretty fair property.
Thanks.
Juan Luis, go ahead. Juan, you there?
No, sorry. Now, Xander, sorry. So I think the conversation last year before the PGA was about how many times you had to be close to get there, no? And I think after winning twice, no, two majors, does that count start from zero? Do you feel in a different position? I mean, what does it bring to your game or to your attitude, no?
I mean, I don't get to ask that question anymore for starters. It was going to be that conversation until if I didn't win one ever, it would have been that conversation that would have haunted me till I was, done playing probably. That's just how the game goes. So luckily I was able to rattle that one off. My first one at Valhalla PGA, which was awesome. And yeah, I feel similar. I feel like I've done it before, but at the same time, I feel I'm still trying to prove myself as well. So I don't look at it too different or feel too different as a whole.
And another quick thing, if I may, this morning we were talking with John Ram. Somebody asked if he had to choose somebody to putt like this week or to get him to win this week, he chose Xander for the best putter of the week. I mean, what does it mean about your putting? If it means something to you, and what have you been working on? No? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at my statistics this year, they're terrible across the board. I had a few bad samples come through returning from injury. So, but I feel good. I feel confident with with my ability and what I can do. And yeah, I've played with John and in San Diego at the Grand a few times, and I do feel like, and even when he was back on the PGA Tour, and we played at East Lake a bunch of times together, and just throughout the year, we got paired a ton. So I always did feel like I would play well when I'd play against him, and I would putt really well too. So it could be a little bit skewed because of that.
Thank you.
Next, we go to Matthias. Go ahead.
Xander, did you hear me?
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's a pleasure for me. Matías Miguel Torge of Handicap 54 Argentina. One only question for you. Would you like to see more spots for the best players of the national opens in these majors, in all the majors and the signature events?
More spot, like, should there be more players in the field?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's been an evolving thing, and honestly, I haven't thought a lot about it. I've just been kind of trying to get myself back into some good golf, sort of good form. But, thinking about it, depending on where we're playing, depending on the weather, depending on a lot of things. Yeah. I mean, I think we can afford to have a few more spots potentially. But there's a lot more that just in the last couple of years, me being out here for 8 or 9 years, I understand that there's a lot more that goes into everything when it comes to having a certain size field, whether it's parking, food, accommodations, you know, you name it across the board. There's so many small things that happen, but yeah, could we afford a few more? Probably, you know, I don't think it would hurt. And I think it's an evolving thing. You know, we've had elevate events, we've had signature events, you know, they've changed names in the last 2 or 3 years, and I don't see why you know, we wouldn't sort of keep tweaking it until we think it's perfect.
Okay, and would you like to see more commitment from your colleagues to the national opens?
For example,
there are a lot of rumors for the participation of Rory in the Australian Open.
okay, yeah, are you saying do I think that would be like better?
Yeah, exactly. If
Um,
you, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think at some point, you know, like I said, I'm not aware of sort of how golf markets work. To be honest, I don't really know. It's not something I'm educated on. I think in terms of growing the game, at some point, you know, making it global. It's always been a little bit global, but making it a global sport, you know, I'm sure that's something that the tour is looking at. I would be shocked if they weren't. So, um, you know, you know, having big events in, you know, in Ireland or in England or in somewhere in Europe or in Asia or in Australia, you know, I think there are certain markets for it. It just needs to make sense and the timing needs to work. And then I think if you make it make sense for everyone, then I think you'd see a lot more players doing it.
We'll wrap things up back with Juan. Go ahead, Juan.
So I know you talked a little bit about this, but you know, I need to ask you about food and wine and things like that. So tell us a little bit about your choices for dinner tonight and why you chose some of the things, including your cigars. No? So yeah.
The cigars I had input on. I'm not gonna lie here. I trusted. I've been at Quail. I don't know. I probably feel like I've been here more than 5 times for sure, maybe 6 times, 7 times, and uh, I the food's always been amazing. The chefs here do a great job. So the only thing I said was sort of steak, and I didn't even look at the menu to be completely honest. I just trusted what they had. So I knew they'd do a good job, and you know, I saw a lot of blue cheese on there. I think we're kind of tweaking it a little bit from the last of my knowledge, or making it a little bit more customized. You can have some on or not, just because it is sort of a really strong. You either like it or you don't thing. So my idea was that I wanted everyone to sort of enjoy the meal and have a nice time. But the cigars, apparently there will be someone rolling a cigar, rolling cigars tonight. So maybe I might tuck some for later. We'll see if I smoke some tonight.
Thank you.
That's great, Xander. Thanks for your time and enjoy your dinner tonight.
Thank you.